Who is the most powerful GF, Guardian Force, in Final Fantasy VIII? Most people would say Eden, while some Bahamut. Some might even argue Griever, the mythical GF tied to Squall Leonhart's inner strength. But what if I told you, the most important GF in the entire game is someone who is more obvious than any of those? Yes, the person I'm talking about is Squall, the protagonist of FF8 himself. You might be thinking, that's ridiculous. How is Squall a GF? To understand what I mean, we need to talk about one of the most mysterious characters in the story, Ellone. Ellone has a unique ability. She can send the consciousness of people in the present onto the consciousness of other people in the past. And this is exactly what happens to Squall and his party. At some point, their minds are sent back 17 years into the past onto the minds of a Galbadian soldier named Laguna Lawyer and his two comrades, Kiros and Ward. Now, Laguna might seem like a side character at first, but he's much more than that. Without Laguna, the world of Final Fantasy VIII wouldn't even survive long enough for Squall's story to begin. And the key to understanding why lies in how this mind transfer actually works. In Final Fantasy VIII, Guardian Forces, or GFs, are not just summons. They are entities that are junctioned directly onto a person's brain. This links the user to the GFs, allowing them to tap into their powers and use magic. But at a cost. The more you rely on GFs, the more your memories begin to fade. Now here's where things get fascinating. A scientist named Dr. Odine studied Ellone's powers and created a technology based on it, something called the junction machine Ellone. This machine mimics Ellone's ability, allowing people to junction GFs onto themselves. It is also an advanced version of this machine that is used by the future sorceress Ultimecia to junction her mind onto sorceress Edia's in the present. So when Ellone sends Squall's mind into the past, she is essentially performing a junction. Not of a GF, but of a human's consciousness. Squall's mind is junctioned onto Laguna's, while the minds of other two random members of Squall's party are junctioned onto Kiros and Ward's. Remember the junction exchange interface that pops up when a Laguna flashback occurs. And this leads us to one of the most fascinating terms in the entire game: the fairies. During the flashback sequences, when you play as Laguna, Laguna mentions something odd whenever you select a response initiated by Squall. Responses like, "Where am I?" or "What's going on?" When this happens, Laguna would sense and react to Squall's thoughts. At one point, in the piano bar at the Galbadian Hotel, Laguna even asks his companions if they hear strange buzzing in their heads. And they mention that it started back in the Timber Forest, the exact moment when Squall and his party were first sent into the past. Laguna's aware on some level of a foreign presence inside his mind. And this foreign presence is Squall. Laguna and his comrades would eventually call this foreign presence fairies. This is where it becomes interesting. When Ellone junctions Squall's mind onto Laguna's, she doesn't just send Squall alone. She sends everything that is part of Squall's consciousness at that moment, including the Guardian Forces that are already junctioned onto Squall's mind. That is why Laguna is not only able to sense Squall's thoughts, but he is also able to wield the power of Squall's GFs. This is revealed later in the game when Laguna finally meets Squall in person in Estar. There, Laguna mentions that Squall and his party give his own party so much power during battle. That's not just metaphorical. That's literal. To sum things up, when Ellone junctions Squall's mind onto Laguna's, Squall's presence then occupies a part of Laguna's brain, which is similar to how a Guardian Force occupies their user's brain. In this way, Squall becomes Laguna's GF, and Squall's library of GFs become freely available for Laguna to wield, even at a time when GF junctioning hasn't even existed. You may then ask, what impact does this actually have on the story of FF8? Let me explain. 17 years before Squall's journey begins, Laguna embarked on a mission that changed the fate of the entire world. This mission involved Laguna traveling across the world to the high-tech city Estar to rescue Ellone, who was then in the captivity of the cruel sorceress Adele, the then ruler of Estar. Sorceress Adele planned for Ellone to become her successor, which meant wanting Ellone to inherit her sorceress powers and continue her legacy. But Laguna managed to save Ellone and seal sorceress Adele away. in space. At first glance, this seems like just another heroic act. But it's much more than that. Because 17 years later, a new threat emerges. A sorceress from the future. Sorceress Ultimecia. Sorceress Ultimecia's goal is to achieve time compression, to merge past, present, and future together and create a reality where only she can survive. To do this, she needs Ellone, so she can travel far enough into the past to wield time compression. To this end, Sorceress Ultimecia possesses another sorceress in the present, Edea Kramer, and begins searching for Ellone. One thing to note is that Sorceress Ultimecia can only possess someone who is a sorceress. Now, here's the crucial part. If Laguna had failed to save Ellone from Sorceress Adele 17 years ago, if he had not sealed Sorceress Adele, Sorceress Adele would still be active and free to roam about in the present timeline. Which means Sorceress Ultimecia wouldn't need to possess Sorceress Edea. She could simply possess Sorceress Adele directly. And since Ellone would already be in Adele's captivity, there would be nothing stopping Sorceress Ultimecia from achieving time compression through Ellone immediately. And if Sorceress Adele has already passed her sorceress powers to Ellone, turning Ellone into a sorceress, it would be even more convenient for Sorceress Ultimecia, as she could just possess Sorceress Ellone to travel further back to the past to achieve time compression. In either case, it's game over before the game even begins. And this brings us back to the original question. Why is Squall the greatest and most powerful guardian force of FF8? Because through Ellone's power, Squall is junctioned onto Laguna. He becomes a presence that bestows magical powers upon Laguna. Squall empowers Laguna in battle, helping Laguna overcome all the monsters he encountered since his mission in the Timber Forest, so that Laguna can survive for the events leading up to Ellone's rescue at Estar to happen. In turn, Laguna's arrival in Estar ensures that Sorceress Adele would be sealed, that Ellone would be saved, and that the future where Squall exists can even happen at all. In other words, Squall is the GF of Laguna he never intended to be, a small stone that brings about an avalanche, one that carries the destiny of saving the world even before he was born. Such a destiny is far greater and more powerful than any GF's abilities or damage power. I hope you enjoy this video. Please remember to like and subscribe to support me in making more of these videos. So, what do you think of Squall being the greatest GF? Leave a comment to share your thoughts. I shall see you in the next video.